for the main race. De Villiers a minute faster than teammate Grobler in the production vehicles, and the Nobles only 12 seconds ahead of the Berthold father and son duo in the special. Early morning at Lupin as crews prepare for a tough day.
Hello, good morning.
The 450-kilometer route for the Barberspan 500 comprised 2 loops of similar length.
We had a good run. We got lost there for about, I think, 20 seconds at one spot, but I think everybody went wrong there. But we had a good run. We tried to push hard in the beginning because we knew there was going to be a lot of dust today, so we've definitely got an advantage there, although we've got to look for the road, but it looks good so far.
Rashid Noble would be first away in the special vehicle category.
It's taken a year to get this car right. We've been practicing every day, breaking down, but it seems to got the car in order this time. The route is very fast, very fast. But sometimes you run out of speed. You don't even know you're looking for more power.
The Bankfin Off-Road Championship has developed into a major spectacle, and a large crowd turned out for the Barberspan 500. 8 o'clock and the race was underway with De Villiers in only his second full season of off-road racing, and Don in the Nissan hardbody leading the 85-car field away. The Nobles were next off the line in the Chevy NASCAR V6-powered Aceco. The rest of the field followed in quick succession. Grobler and Leek were a little over-eager. Class S contenders Greg Dowse and Trevor Ormerod were the leading Nashua Mobile Racing crew and had Woolridge and Skoltheimer a mere 5 seconds behind them. The chase was on, and the Ford Racing pair were hell-bent on gaining as much ground on the leading pack in the V8-powered Ranger. While conditions were dry and dusty, there were a few streams and mud holes that teams had to traverse. De Villiers and Jordan set a fast pace in their new-look Nissan hardbody, now with similar running gear to that fitted to the locally built Nissans driven by Gregoire de Mervius and Stefan Peter Hansel in the recent Dakar Rally. Botswana residents Rashid and Faisal Noble held on to the special vehicle lead, but would retire soon after this with technical problems. Multiple champions Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek had gained a place, and soon after this would take the lead from Nissan teammate De Villiers, but fan belt and battery problems slowed their pace and dropped them down the field. Father and son team Bodo and Gary Berthold shared the driving in the Nissan V6-powered M&E Glass Bat and would soon take the lead in the special vehicle category. Board with Woolridge and Skoltheimer, a near miss with Dowse and Ormerod, and the start of problems for all crews. A poorly marked route would result in teams frequently getting lost, resulting in a number of near head-on collisions and the running order changing all the time. The Ford Racing Ranger started overheating early into the race, which was cause for concern. Ford Caledon 400 winners Greg Dowse and Trevor Ormerod were runaway leaders in the new Class S for older design beam axle special vehicles. Introduced for the first time in 2002, the new class attracted 7 entries. Leading contenders for overall victory were Makhekenene and Andre in the Jimco, but what they didn't know was that Weir Smith and George in a similar car were rapidly gaining on them after starting 83rd. The first of the Class D entries. Former Class D champions Hein Grobler and Gerard Prinsloo in the works Nissan Hardbody had to contend with stiff competition from the likes of Mark Corbett and Juan Moore in the highly competitive ex-Delta Motorsport Isuzu, now being campaigned under the Century Property Developments banner. Veterans John Lambert and Pete Hearnes retired from the sport a number of years ago, but following the introduction of Class S, decided to dust off their trusty Digidor raceco, here being chased hard and fast by Pete Haasbroek and Christo Bosch in the Class D Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. The end of the road for Carlos de Abrio and Steve Cooper in the Toyota Land Cruiser as Class B leaders Bez and Dion Bezatenhout splash their way through the water in their Chenneth. The Class E battle was expected to be a tough one, and the early leaders were Manfred Schroeder and Jack Peckham in the diesel-powered Ford Racing Ranger. But behind them it looked like the charge of the Light Brigade as first Nick Harper and Andrew Chalipsky plowed through the slush, followed by Yuri and Andre Duplessis in the BB Auto Nissan. A cheeky move from Cliff Weichelt and Johan Smallberger in the ex-Woolridge M1 4x4 Ford Ranger gave Mark Breckel and Ian Kilburn in the Brasco Refrigeration Raceco an unexpected bath. Another N1 4x4 entry, Jean-Pierre Joubert and Errol Hodgson in the Class E Kia, making its debut in the Bankman Off-Road Championship. William Battersill and Reg Sutton from KwaZulu-Natal would soon have their hands full with the pack bearing down on them. Brandon Harkis and Carlos George started 57th in the bat and were carving their way through the field. They would later retire when a rear trailing arm broke away from its mounting. Bevan Bergholt and Colin Howell started 64th after fuel pump problems in the prologue, but they later crashed at high speed without sustaining any injuries. Afi Reineke and Robin Houghton were on a mission after starting 66th in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. Despite poor visibility, the experienced pair made light work of the slower cruise. Getting lost, and often, was the plight of all teams. Here, the Bertholts, Woolridge and Douse mill around trying to locate route markers. On board with De Villiers and Jordan as they headed for early retirement. Terminal suspension damage after contact with a hidden rock put paid to their hopes. Suspension damage also forced Schroeder and Peckham in the Ford Racing Ranger into early retirement. One could be forgiven for asking why Woolridge and Scholthammer were running behind their Class E teammates, but it was all about getting lost and losing any advantage gained. 90 minutes into the race, and surprise leaders John Lambert and Pete Hearnes in the Digidor Raceco had taken advantage of crews ahead of them getting lost, but were under pressure from the Ford Racing Ranger of Woolridge and Scholthammer. Corbett and Moore were third overall and Class D leaders in the Century Property Developments Isuzu, and had Greg Harvey and Boy Stone close behind in the Lexus V8-powered Jimco. Richard Schilling and Ashley Thorne were well placed in fourth and would later lead briefly before being forced to retire with a broken power steering. Brothers Henry and Maurice Zermatten set a cracking pace in the PlayStation Pajero, and lead Class D from Duncan Foss and Mike Griffiths in the second Class D Works Nissan Hardbody. Douse and Ormerod were close behind and comfortable leaders in Class S. Hein Grobler and Gerard Prinsloo trailed their Nissan teammates Foss and Griffiths by 16 seconds, and they were under constant pressure from Pete Haasbroek and Christo Bosch in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. 2 hours and 20 minutes into the Barberspan 500, and Reineke and Houghton were in the lead. From 66th place into the lead in only 140 minutes was a phenomenal feat. Harvey and Stone started in 25th place and were now the leading special vehicle. Third overall and leading in Class D were Grobler and Prinsloo in the Nissan Hardbody, closely followed by teammates Fasten Griffiths and a gaggle of cars. Marcus Taylor and Mark Deschalaine were the new Class B leaders, closely followed by another Class B contender, Rob Gurney in the JRE. Haasbrook and Bosch were well placed in the Land Cruiser and could be counted on for a strong finish. Contact with the Bertolds early into the race damaged the left front shock absorber on the Makakhanene Jimco. The Class B brigade were well placed with Gavin Gray and Brian Scott 9th overall in the Powerflow Race Co. Corbett and Moore rounded out the top 10 in the Isuzu, with Woolridge and Small-Thomas slowed by overheating problems on the Ford Racing Ranger. Kasikutsia and Okifuri led Class E in the Castrol Toyota Condor, but there were problems for Class F leaders Arthur Tapoch and Galo van der Merwe in the Nissan. Weir Smith and George had made up 69 places in the O'Hagan's Kopenong Hotel Jimco. Teams anxiously awaited the arrival of their chargers, and the first to arrive were Arpi Reneke and Robin Houghton in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. From 66th place into the lead was nothing short of amazing. But their lead was short-lived as the Woolridge Ranger idled by, and into the lead the chase was on.